Your calendar is lying about who you are. And it's making you anxious without you even realizing it. I know that sounds dramatic. But stick with me because I'm about to show you exactly why that gap between who you think you are and how you actually spend your time is slowly destroying you. You probably said you'd never be that person, right? The one who says they value family but never puts the phone down at dinner. The one who talks about creativity like it's sacred, but can't remember the last time they actually created anything. The one who claims to value presence and connection, but spends evenings scrolling through other people's lives instead of living their own. But here's the uncomfortable part. Your phone screen time says otherwise. And that gap, that's the problem we're solving today. Let me introduce you to Sarah. Actually, you probably already know Sarah. You might be Sarah. Sarah wakes up and tells herself she values deep relationships and creativity. Those are her stated values. They're in her head. Maybe they're on a Pinterest board. Maybe she said them out loud at a therapy appointment. But let's look at her actual week. 40 hours at a job she tolerates. 8 hours of sleep if she's lucky. 2 hours scrolling through Instagram while literally sitting next to her partner who's trying to talk to her. 0 creative time. Surface-level plans with friends she hasn't seen in months. 1 or 2 family dinners but on autopilot thinking about work emails. She's busy. Exhausted, actually. But not because of what she's doing. Because of what that calendar is telling her about who she actually is. And here's where it gets painful. Sarah feels guilty. Not because she's lazy. She's not lazy. She's exhausted. But she feels guilty because there's this constant background anxiety humming underneath everything. This voice that says, I should be doing something else. I'm not being true to myself. I'm not enough. She can't fix that guilt by working harder. She can't fix it with another app or another productivity hack. Because the guilt isn't coming from effort. It's coming from the gap between what she claims to value and what her calendar proves she values. Ever felt that way? That low-level dread that something's off but you can't quite name what? That's what we're talking about. And here's the thing. Most of us live like Sarah. We say we value health, but our grocery bill and our exercise schedule tell a completely different story. We say we value presence and deep connection, but we're scrolling through our partner's Instagram story instead of listening to them talk about their day. We say we value creativity, but we haven't made anything in 5 years. We're not broken. We're just not choosing. The worst part? We don't think we're choosing these lives. We think we're just busy. We think we're just overwhelmed. We think somehow, someday it'll all balance out and we'll get to the things that matter. But here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to hear. Your calendar is a confession. It shows exactly what you actually value, not what you say you value. It's not lying. It's just being honest about who you actually are right now, whether you like it or not. So here's the question. What do we do about that? And the answer is not what you think. The solution isn't to do more. It's not to be more disciplined. It's not to download another app or add another item to your to-do list. It's not to wake up earlier or stay up later or somehow squeeze more hours out of the day. The solution is to stop pretending you don't have to choose. That's it. That's the shift. See, here's what Mark Manson figured out in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Frick, and it's the most important insight in that entire book. Everyone is giving a frick about something. Every single person. You can't opt out of caring. You're hardwired to prioritize something. The difference between people who feel alive and people who feel stuck, people who feel exhausted and anxious all the time, is this. The alive ones know what they're choosing to give a frick about. They've made a conscious decision. Maybe they don't like all of it. Maybe they wish some things were different. But they chose. The stuck ones? They're giving their energy and their time to values they never consciously picked in the first place. They inherited them. They stumbled into them. They're following a script that somebody else wrote. And that's where the suffering comes from. Once you get honest about what you're actually prioritizing, not what you think you should prioritize, something shifts. The guilt doesn't disappear because your life magically fixes itself. It disappears because there's no more gap. There's no more contradiction. You're not living a lie anymore. You're not performing. You're not hoping that nobody notices. Your life and your choices finally line up. And that alignment? That's what actually feels good. Let's get specific. Because abstract philosophy doesn't change anything. Action does. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Your calendar doesn't lie. Even if you do. You might tell yourself that you value family. You might want to believe that. You might tell other people that family is everything to you. But if you haven't had an uninterrupted dinner with your kids in 3 months, if you can't remember the last time you had a real conversation with your partner without your phone in your hand, then you don't value family more than comfort. That's not a judgment. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that's the honest truth that your calendar is telling. And here's why this matters. The anxiety you feel? It's not actually coming from being busy. It's not coming from the amount of work you have to do. It's coming from living a lie. Your subconscious mind knows you're not living according to your stated values. Your body knows. And that creates a low-level dread that nothing can fix until you get honest. Look at your calendar right now. Seriously. When you finish this video, I want you to do this. 8 hours of work, 8 hours of sleep, 1 hour commuting, 1 hour eating, 2 hours on social media and entertainment. And then what? Where's the thing you claim to value? Where's the creativity? Where's the deep connection? Where's the health? Where's the meaning? It's not there. And your body knows it. Your calendar is a confession, not a character flaw. The goal isn't to shame you. The goal is to wake you up. Okay, so you're probably thinking, all right, I get it. My life is misaligned. But how do I fix it? I've got responsibilities. I've got a job. I've got people depending on me. I can't just change everything. And that brings us to the second thing you need to understand. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. Every value requires sacrifice. Every single one. If you genuinely value health, you sacrifice comfort. That means hitting the gym when you're tired. That means saying no to dessert. That means doing the thing you don't want to do. If you value creativity, you sacrifice money. That might mean taking a lower-paying job. That might mean investing your savings in equipment instead of security. That might mean risk. If you value family time, you sacrifice career advancement. You're not going to be the most ambitious person in the office. Your kids might not have the biggest house. But your kids will have a parent who's actually present. This is not a secret. This is not a trick. This is just reality. So here's where it gets liberating. The choice you're actually facing, the choice you've been avoiding, is not between suffering and not suffering. That's not real. That's a fantasy. The actual choice is between meaningless suffering and meaningful suffering. The guilt you feel right now? That's meaningless suffering. It's the pain of not choosing. It's the exhaustion of trying to have everything at the same time. It's the constant anxiety of living a contradiction. It's the worst kind of suffering because it doesn't buy you anything. It doesn't move you forward. It just weighs you down. But meaningful suffering? That's different. That's the tiredness you feel after creating something. That's the soreness in your muscles after exercise. That's the financial stress of taking a risk on something you believe in. That's the trade-off you consciously accept because you chose it. And once you accept that every value requires trade-offs, something shifts. You're not torn in 100 directions anymore. You're not hoping for a miracle. You're making a deliberate choice. And that choice, by definition, will disappoint some part of you. And that's okay, because the rest of you is finally aligned. Think about it this way. If you choose to prioritize family, you accept that you won't be the most ambitious person at work. Maybe you don't get the promotion. Maybe you don't make the most money in your field. But you get something else. You get a daughter who knows you. You get a son who remembers you as present, not just working. On the flip side, if you choose to prioritize your career, you accept that your kids might grow up remembering you as the parent who was always working. They might resent that. You might have regrets. Neither is wrong. Neither is bad. But you have to choose which meaningful suffering you prefer. And the moment you do, the guilt starts to lift. Here's the third thing, and this one is sneaky. There's a difference between two types of values, and most of us are living according to the wrong one. Intrinsic values, relationships, creativity, growth, contribution, learning, health, these create sustainable fulfillment. When you invest in these, you feel better. Not just in the moment. Long term. Deep in your bones. Extrinsic values, money, status, appearance, fame, recognition, these create a treadmill. You get one and you want two. You achieve it and it's not enough. You get to the top and you realize you climbed the wrong mountain. And here's the thing. You've probably inherited a set of values from your culture, your family, your social media feeds. And those values aren't actually yours. Somewhere deep inside, you know that. And that mismatch is absolutely exhausting. So ask yourself this honestly. When you say I value success, what do you actually mean? Do you want that, like, genuinely in your bones? You want to build something or achieve something? Or do you want people to think you have it? Because those are radically different things. And they lead to completely different lives. That question matters. It really does. Because if you're chasing status when you actually crave connection, you'll always feel like you're failing. Even when you succeed. You'll have everything you thought you wanted, the title, the money, the Instagram aesthetic, and you'll feel completely empty. I've seen that. You've probably seen that too. That person who has it all and looks miserable. That's what happens when your intrinsic needs aren't being met, no matter how many extrinsic wins you rack up. But here's the good news. Getting honest about intrinsic versus extrinsic values doesn't mean you have to abandon ambition or money. You don't have to go live in a cabin in the woods. You don't have to reject the real world. It just means you stop running from an imagined version of failure and start running towards something you actually want. For real. Not the version of success that looks good on Instagram. The version of success that actually feels good to live. Now, I know what you're thinking. And I want to address this directly. You're probably thinking, this sounds nice, but I'd have to quit my job and become a monk or something. I have responsibilities. I can't just change everything. And here's the truth. No. You don't. Manson's philosophy isn't about rejecting the real world. It's about making conscious choices within it. Real, practical, livable choices. Maybe your job aligns with your values. Maybe it does. Maybe you value security, or you value contribution, or you value learning. And your job gives you those things. That's beautiful. Keep it. Or maybe your job doesn't align with your values. But you're choosing it deliberately. You're choosing the steady paycheck. You're choosing the health insurance. You're choosing the predictability. And you're making that choice consciously, not pretending it's not a choice. And when you do that, the guilt disappears. Because it's not about what you're doing. It's about whether you're doing it on purpose or just hoping that nobody notices you haven't actually chosen. You might also be thinking, but I can't afford to sacrifice anything. I have people depending on me. I have too many responsibilities. And I hear that. That's real. But I'm going to gently push back. You probably have fewer hard constraints than you think. Even a 5% reallocation of your time can create alignment. We're not talking about overhauling your entire life. We're talking about reclaiming some agency over it. Some intentionality. Some choice. And here's what's interesting. People with real responsibilities who do this work actually handle those responsibilities better. Because they're not operating from guilt anymore. They're not operating from contradiction. They're operating from alignment. And alignment creates clarity. You're already making sacrifices. You're sacrificing meaning for comfort. The question is, are you choosing that, or are you pretending it's not a choice? And there's one more objection I hear. Isn't this just selfish? Isn't putting my values first kind of self-centered? Actually, it's the opposite. Confused people living misaligned values, are less present, less generous, and less capable of showing up for others. They're depleted. They're resentful. They're running on fumes. But when you get clear on your values and stop living in guilt, you show up better in every relationship. You have energy. You have presence. You have generosity because you're not running on empty. The most responsible thing you can do is stop pretending you're committed to something you're not. That's not selfish. That's honest. And honesty is the foundation for actually showing up well. Okay, so enough theory. Let's actually do this. Right now. Not someday. Not when you have more time. Right now. I want you to grab your calendar from the last 2 weeks. Seriously. Don't just think about it. Actually look at it. Open it up. See what's there. Now categorize everything into buckets. Work, sleep, social media and entertainment, relationships, health, creative projects, obligation, chores. Just be honest. Don't judge. Just see it. Your calendar is the truth. It's not aspirational. It's not performative. It's real data about where your time actually goes. Now ask yourself, without filtering for what I should value, what does this time allocation tell me I'm actually prioritizing? Write down 2 or 3 things. And be brutally honest. Don't write down what sounds good. Write down what your calendar actually shows. If it says status and appearance, write that. If it says comfort and ease, write that. If it says other people's approval, write that. If it says financial security, write that. This isn't about shame. It's about data. Your life is sending you a message about what you're actually valuing right now. And the first step toward change is getting that message clearly. Now find one thing you claim to value that barely shows up in your calendar. Or find one thing that shows up a lot that you don't actually care about anymore. Maybe you claim to value creativity but you haven't touched that guitar in 8 months. Maybe you claim to value presence and deep connection but you spend every evening on your phone. Maybe you claim to value health but there's not a single workout on your calendar. Don't fix it yet. Just spot it. Just see it. If you reclaim just 3 hours a week for that value, what would you be saying no to? Entertainment? Comfort? Work? Saying yes to every friend request? Over time? What's the trade-off? Because once you see the trade-off clearly, once you understand what you're actually choosing between, you can make the choice consciously instead of just drifting. You don't need to commit to anything yet. You don't need to change anything yet. Just see the trade-off. That's the whole first step. Here's what we've covered. Your exhaustion isn't about being lazy. It's not about lacking discipline. It's about living without choosing. It's about the gap between who you say you are and who your calendar proves you are. And that gap is making you anxious in ways you don't even consciously notice. But the actual moment you get honest about what you're actually prioritizing, not what you're supposed to prioritize, the anxiety starts to lift. Not because your life magically fixes itself, but because you stop living a lie. And yes, you're going to have to make real sacrifices. Real, meaningful, sometimes painful sacrifices. You're going to have to say no to things. You're going to have to feel discomfort. You're going to have to accept that you can't have it all. But at least they'll be your sacrifices. Not someone else's. Not inherited. Not accidental. Yours. Your calendar isn't a failure. It's not proof that you're broken or lazy or not enough. Your calendar is feedback. It's showing you exactly what you're choosing to give a frick about right now. The question is, do you like that choice? Or do you need to make a different one? So here's what I want you to do. Go into the comments and answer this honestly. What's one thing you claim to value that barely shows up in your calendar? Don't fix it yet. Just name it. Because the first step toward living differently is being willing to see the truth. I'm genuinely curious what you find when you look. And if you haven't already, do yourself a favor and read Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Frick. This whole framework comes from that book, and it's one of the most honest, most practical guides to values-based living that's out there. It cuts through all the motivational nonsense and just tells you the truth. So take the audit. See what's actually happening in your life. And then, if you want the full framework for actually making that alignment shift, the specific steps to reorganize your life without burning the whole thing down, I've got a deeper dive on that. Links in the description. Your calendar is telling a story. The question is whether you're going to keep letting someone else write it, or if you're finally going to pick up the pen. What will you choose?